When you first start uploading online, everything feels exciting. You convince URLF consistency will eventually solve everything. Make enough videos, improve gradually, stay patient long enough, and eventually people will notice the work you're putting in. But almost nobody talks about what uploading to nobody actually does to you psychologically over time. People love discussing thumbnails, retention, hooks, and strategy, yet nobody really explains what constant silence starts doing to your identity internally. Because after enough uploads into silence, the problem stops being low views. The real problem becomes what the silence slowly starts making you believe about yourself instead. That shift is where the experience starts becoming emotionally strange. At first, you stay optimistic because tiny signs of progress feel surprisingly meaningful early on. One video gets 10 views and suddenly, it feels like momentum might finally be building quietly behind the scenes somewhere. Then the next upload completely flatlines again, and your brain instantly starts questioning everything. Maybe the videos aren't good enough. Maybe the niche is saturated. Maybe everyone else understands something you still don't somehow. That uncertainty slowly follows you outside YouTube too, which is honestly the strangest part. You start thinking about thumbnails during work, titles during dinner, and analytics while trying to fall asleep at night. And ambitious people are especially vulnerable to this process because silence eventually stops feeling neutral. When you genuinely want to build something meaningful, low views start feeling weirdly personal instead of statistical. That's the dangerous part of internet ambition nobody explains properly. The internet attaches real-time metrics directly to your self-worth every day. Views, subscribers, impressions. Tiny numbers suddenly begin controlling massive emotions over time. And the strange thing is that most people around you never even see this process happening internally. From the outside, you're just trying YouTube or working on a side project after work like everybody else. But internally, it starts feeling much bigger than that surprisingly fast. Because deep down, you aren't only uploading videos anymore, you're testing whether your ideas can eventually change your life completely. That's why low views sting far more than they logically should for ambitious people online. Modern internet culture makes this even worse too, because every day you see creators blowing up, businesses scaling, and random people apparently becoming wealthy online overnight. That environment slowly distorts your expectations without you even consciously noticing it happening. You start feeling behind constantly, even while doing more than most people around you ever attempt in the first place themselves. And eventually something strange starts happening creatively too, once analytics become emotionally attached to your identity. Instead of making things naturally, you slowly begin creating strategically instead of creatively over time. Everything becomes optimization. Hooks, retention, packaging, watch time, virality, constant performance analysis everywhere. Eventually, you realize you've spent more time engineering attention than actually expressing anything meaningful anymore. That was a weird moment for me personally because I originally started this wanting freedom instead. But somehow, I ended up emotionally chained to analytics without even noticing it happen gradually over time. And honestly, I think this is where many creators quietly burn out emotionally. Not because they're lazy or untalented, but because silence creates a very specific emotional exhaustion when you're building publicly. One thing I've realized recently is that the internet accidentally trains ambitious people to become addicted to progress itself. Every graph moving upward creates dopamine, while every flatline quietly creates anxiety in response afterward. That's probably why creators obsessively refresh analytics even when their channels are still incredibly small overall. We aren't only checking numbers anymore, we're checking whether our future still feels alive emotionally. And eventually, the algorithm stops being the real opponent entirely. Your own uncertainty slowly becomes the actual opponent instead, which changes everything psychologically once you realize it. The irony is that uploading to nobody probably teaches you more about yourself than success initially ever could. Because silence removes external validation completely, leaving only whether you still believe the work matters anyway. That becomes a genuinely uncomfortable question after enough time passes without obvious momentum appearing publicly. Because eventually, every creator reaches a point where motivation alone stops carrying the process emotionally anymore. And honestly, I think this is where most people quietly disappear from the internet entirely. Not at the beginning when everything still feels exciting, hopeful, and energizing emotionally at first. But later, when they realize success online is slower, more random, and psychologically harder than internet culture originally made it seem. Eventually, this phase either breaks creators completely or slowly rebuilds them differently instead. Because if you continue uploading after enough silence, you slowly stop relying entirely on immediate feedback emotionally. And that mindset shift genuinely changes everything for creators who survive this stage long enough. Sustainable creators probably aren't people who stay motivated permanently throughout the entire process. They're people who learn how to keep building while uncertainty still exists around them constantly anyway. And honestly, I'm still learning that myself right now while making videos about this process publicly. Some days I feel excited about where this could eventually go long-term, if momentum builds. Other days, the entire process feels slightly irrational, emotionally exhausting, and difficult to justify logically. But maybe that's the real hidden cost of a modern ambition nobody discusses openly enough online. Not the work itself. The uncertainty attached to trying to build something meaningful while the internet quietly measures your progress publicly in real time every single day. Because eventually, every creator reaches the same invisible moment psychologically somewhere during this journey. The point where nobody is watching, nothing is growing, and there's still a voice asking whether you'll continue anyway. Most people quietly disappear there eventually, which is probably why the internet looks crowded from the outside, while so few creators survive long enough to actually win.